and live from Palm Beach. Tomorrow night, we'll be live from Las Vegas. Wow.
Live from Palm Beach?
Oh, no, live from, I'm thinking about when we're going back to Palm Beach. It'll be about a month. No, live from.
Not yet. Give us a few more weeks here, Mayor.
Live. It reminds me of when I was in Salem, New Hampshire during the primary. And I got it confused with Salem, Massachusetts.
Oh, no.
I was looking for the witches. And there are no witches in New Hampshire. All the witches are in Democratic Massachusetts.
Live for your
So
die.
we are in New Hampshire, and we're in Dover, New Hampshire. But tomorrow we're making a trip to Las Vegas for a great conference on Saturday, right? This conference is on Saturday.
That's right. And we'll put the information again here up on here. Join us if you're in the area, Las Vegas, Nevada.
If you're in the area, you're going to really like this. We're going to all speak, but I'm going to be on a panel with General Flynn and Roger Stone. We all share in common being part of the group, among other things that the president pointed out the other day that were debanked along with him. In other words, thrown out of our banks because we supported him. And then, of course, much worse, in the case of Steve, he did four months in jail, in prison, which is ridiculous. Roger went through that absurd raid on his house by commandos. And I went through being made bankrupt. And not only that, having my house raided and my law office raided and my law practice and businesses destroyed by the Biden fascists, who still have not been held accountable for it. And it's still a case of denial on the part of the American media, and the danger of that is that if you deny it, it can happen again. Because we made that mistake the first time around in the first Trump administration. And it gave them, I think, a little more leeway to do what they did in the period of time after that. Had we put some of those people where they belong, like James Cardinal Comey in jail, it might not have happened. And then some of the FBI people might have stopped them from doing a lot of the crap that they did. By arresting old women, and I don't know what's happened to them. Putting leg irons on Peter Navarro. So,
let me put the picture up here.
I do believe we're making progress, but it's not just a straight line. It isn't as if,
just real quick.
Oh, Trump won, and now there you go. Vindicated. Heroes have stood up to deep state speak out. Don't miss the most important conference of the decade. And there you see the three of us. There'll be a lot of other really terrific people there. So why don't you come and maybe get a chance to answer questions and sign some things. And we'll see how Las Vegas is doing.
I haven't been to Vegas, Mayor, in almost 10 years.
Oh, I've been there since then. First of all, I was there during the 2020 campaign for sure. I was there. I guess the last time was about 2023. Last time I was there.
It must have been just before you. No, 2022. Did you go in 23? Maybe. We were together at that point.
I don't remember. I know it's not that long.
You were probably there, I'm guessing, after 2020, investigating all the tomfoolery down there in Clark County.
I did a lot of fundraisers there for the party, and
it'll be nice to get out there.
I actually belong to a golf club there that I haven't maintained, but
have not maintained.
Yeah, I haven't been there in a long time.
Maybe
I think they'd still let me in.
You accrued some. Yeah, you probably remember for so many years without going. They got to give you a free trip.
Well,
visit.
I have now a group that that come together, and they're opposing the communist who's running in New York, Mondami, and the group is called the Italian American Council, and they are the Columbus Heritage Coalition of the Italian American Council, and they have published the 2020 Mondami tweets showing him giving the finger to the Columbus statue that we as Italian Americans use as the place where we begin the Columbus parade. And we say a prayer of thanks to Columbus for discovering America. Now, you say, well, he didn't discover it. There were these people that came before and those people that came before. Well, that's good. That's like a tree falling in the forest and nobody knew. Had that remained, it would have taken another 300 years before we recognized America. I mean, Columbus is the one who put it on the map. Now, Vespucci is the one who actually put it on the map, which is why it's named after him, another Italian. And he did the map. And it's interesting they didn't call it India, right? That whole thing, too, about describing the Native Americans as Indians because they thought they had reached India. There's nothing racist about that. That's part of history. And they accepted that as a description and used it. And in many cases, a lot of those descriptions and things that they're now having this false shock over were things that people were very proud of as part of their heritage. There's no heritage. It's all positive. Part of what makes people great very often is the terrible things they have to go through. I'm not just talking about individual people. I'm talking about people in terms of a culture. So the Italians rip Mondami for hate, and Angelo Vivolo, who's the president of the coalition, said that Italian Americans have zero tolerance for hate. Zoran Mondami is prominently publicly displaying his hatred in the most crude and clear manner for all to see on social media. It's also showing that he's a complete tool of the Marxists who brainwashed him. What a disgrace. What a disgrace.
Sick guy.
Well,
sick guy.
The Trump administration has really done a workaround on the sanctuary city laws, and I expect there are going to be some real consequences here. Now, for the longest time, I couldn't understand how New York could pass a law that said that you should not that you cannot cooperate with federal authorities if they're seeking an illegal alien. Even the civil laws. How do you get the authority to obstruct federal law when the Constitution has a supremacy clause making the federal Constitution and laws supreme? And it is quite clear that this is an area that is not reserved for states under the 10th Amendment, or this is an area that is specifically by the Constitution given to the president and the Congress. Immigration. And logically it would be, right? Because immigration, it involves the whole country, not a single state. If they let you in, they let you in to America. And you may end up in Minnesota, even if you're illegal, getting money from the Chinese operative there, and or maybe in Colorado with Feliz Navidad, or New York with Hochul and Adams. But you can go all over the United States. So that decision has to be made by the federal government. It's like foreign policy. A state can't disagree with the United States lawfully declaring war without going back to a civil war. The thinking here is extraordinarily dangerous, very irrational, and really a sign of how Democrats will accept any garbage that their leadership gives them. So many of these subpoenas now are criminal subpoenas, because they also, the government can charge you with a crime. They were treating it civilly, but in many cases they can charge you as a crime. It is a crime to cross the border without permission. It's a civil infraction to be here illegally. But you can't be here illegally unless you cross the border. Here's where the distinction might be for people who overstay their visa. But people who don't have a visa, people who don't even have a recorded method of entry, are therefore guilty of a crime. because they necessarily didn't come here by delivery by the Holy Ghost. So the federal government is charging them with a crime. Now, that gives the federal agents complete access to all state facilities. So this comes about because in New York, Adams, in his effort to become more moderate about being an encourager of illegal immigration, allowed the ICE agents to put themselves at Rikers Island, where they always had been, through my administration, through Koch's, through Bloomberg's. But the city council in New York sort of threw them out. Adams put them back, and then the city council threw them out again. So that dangerous criminals who finish their sentences, let's say somebody finishes a sentence for multiple rape, but he's an illegal, and he comes from Nicaragua. The way it's supposed to work is first of all, the state should inform the federal government they have such a person to help them. Of course, they should be assisting in the carrying out of federal law, since they all take an oath to do that. The oath that I took as mayor of New York included carrying out and obeying the Constitution and the laws of the United States. New York is not a separate entity. It's not the Vatican City. It's part of a country. That's what the Civil War sort of decided. So this is very, very useful, because I think it will help the lawsuit against New York. And this is it gives you an idea of how this is a much smarter Justice Department. 200 aliens are charged in New York with federal crimes. They insist on calling them migrants. That is not the legal term for them. The legal term for them is aliens. What's that euphemistic bullshit? Migrants. The word in the law is they are illegal aliens. That's what the federal statutes say. So don't tell me that I'm being unfair by using the words of the federal statute, decided by a majority of Congress, approved by the president, and used, forever. So there are 200 in New York that have been charged with federal crimes. And there are, in Los Angeles, I think it's in the thousands. So interference in their arrest is a pretty serious crime. And that crime could be charged against the public officials, who then say, we're going to stand in the way of ICE, we're going to stand in the way of, all that posturing is totally ridiculous. It's complete violation of the law. There's a big dispute about this guy, Mahmoud Khalil. Mahmoud Khalil was deported. He actually was headed out of the country, and they got him back. He led a lot of the anti-Jewish demonstrations, particularly in Colombia and elsewhere. His hatred of the Jewish people is tremendously well documented. His disruption of Colombia, including violations of the law, are manifold. Just one after the other. And the fact that he's aided and abetted Hamas is about as clear as a bell. But the liberal judges have somehow worked it out so that we can't get rid of him. There's an injunction on getting rid of him. Well, this guy, in an interview with the New York Times, a journalist, Ezra Klein, surprised even Ezra Klein by not disagreeing with, or at least expressing some concern about the October 7 barbaric attacks by Hamas on Jewish women and children. Not only did he fail to condemn it, God forbid we should ask him to do that, he defended it. He called it a desperate moment that Palestinians had to reach because of what Israel did to them. So what Israel did to them said they should go rape little children, like the founder of their religion did. And we're fighting over whether we should throw this guy in the United States. Who's fighting with us? These people, Forget America first. These people hate America. They want us to keep people here who do damage to us. They want us to keep people here who want to exterminate a very, very proud, wonderful, and contributing a group in America, the Jewish people. And they clearly are animals. You look at that October 7 attack, and you look at the plans for it. The plans were specifically, I mean, what did they kill, 1,200 people? Some were soldiers. You know, they were a mistake. You know how the Israelis organize it so that they try to minimize and avoid as much as they can the killing of civilians, reflected in the fact that their rate of killing civilians, even based on the phony Hamas statistics, is less than any modern army, including the American. I don't know. Maybe we did. I think we might have. In some of these cases, we might have, but very rarely. I mean, Israel would warn about bombings, and in a way that was even counterproductive, because the same warning for the children would be a warning to the terrorists, which made, I mean, if they had played it the way the rules of war are usually played, this thing would be over by now. And the idea that the Israelis are attacked for the much lower percentage of civilians that have been killed than in Ukraine, and just the other day, Putin deliberately hit a building of civilians. A deliberate attack on the building, unless they really don't know what they're doing. And killed 2 civilians and sent 25 to the hospital. Well, there was a good study that was put out today, I guess only published in the New York Times, which, you know, and it really this is important because they try to create this connection between Trump and Epstein, which is very tenuous. I'm going to tell you the connection. I know it. He was a member of Mar-a-Lago, and Epstein, and he was a member of the golf course until about 2000. They say 2006 or 2007. I thought it was a little earlier than that, but that'd be about right. But before he was thrown out of both, before the criminal charges or criminal investigation started, and he was thrown out, and there was somewhat of a dispute over the reason. No question he was thrown out by Trump. But I believe that the reason is that he was being abusive to the staff of women who were masseuses, and they complained about a series of abusive incidents. I don't think it involved anything like, you know, rape or just very uncomfortable situations where he was, I imagine, asking for sex or whatever. And when Trump found out about it, and it must have been that Trump had it with him anyway. Trump said, "Throw him out." He gave the order. They put him on the list. The security staff went into his locker, packaged up everything he had, put it in a bag, stuck it outside, and he had to come pick it up. He tried to appeal to Trump, and Trump just ignored him. And I don't think, unless it was accidental, that since that day, Trump has seen him, talked to him, or until now thought about him. Now, I want you to consider, as a matter of common sense, and I want you to use the Democrat interpretation of Trump, that he's a highly manipulative, very terrible person. Now, if he had been in a compromising situation with Epstein, would he have thrown him out of Mar-a-Lago and left him capable of being able to give out tapes about him or do the kinds of things that we have on Clinton? Of course he wouldn't. He was perfectly free to do anything he wanted to do with Epstein because he didn't do anything wrong with Epstein. He thought Epstein, I guess, was a regular guy, but he wasn't. And he did a certain amount of socializing with him. Epstein describes him as a good friend. Trump has never described him as a good friend. The number of things they did together does not suggest he was one of his good friends. And if you look at the number of times he was on the plane in comparison to Clinton, first of all, he was never on the plane headed anywhere else but New York. And that was twice. And it was, he borrowed the plane to go home. And that's all before about 2004. So they make this big thing about Trump. And except for the Post, they ignore Clinton. Now, Clinton had numerous experiences with Epstein. Epstein was his pal. For example, the statement from the people who have seen the documents say that he was aboard the Lolita Express 26 or 27 times. That he was at the island. He denies it. Would that be the first time Bill Clinton lied? He denies it, but the witnesses, there are more than one witness to the fact that he was on that island. There's another witness that says he was on that island in the company of two very young girls, and that he walked off with them. I mean, I don't know if the Democrats were that smart in opening the Pandora's box here. There's also a statement from that questionable character known as Kevin Spacey, who was on a flight with him, the Lolita Express. This was not a flight to Pedophile Island. This was a flight to Africa, including to go see Nelson Mandela in South Africa. And Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, someone named Chris Tucker, who I don't know who he is, and flew there on Epstein's plane. Spacey came back and complained that Epstein put Trump in a very difficult position because he had so many young girls on the plane. Clinton. In such bad. I felt Epstein put the president at risk with those young girls on board, Spacey said in an interview with Piers Morgan. It was disturbing. There were young girls on those flights. I didn't understand at the time who they were or why they were there. It would have been impossible to go to Pedophile Island and not know what it was for. And it would be impossible he would take you there if you weren't one of his trusted fellow pedophiles for fear of exposure. I mean, no matter how screwed up a person is, they may very well not be a pedophile. I mean, that's a little beyond some of the other frailties of human nature. And I don't know that it's a frailty. I think it's a terrible sickness. But in any event, he had to be very careful about what he revealed and to whom. So you're not going to have somebody aboard that plane 20, 30 times unless you're pretty damn comfortable that you got enough on them so they're not going to rat on you. And so going to be really interesting. So we have a straight out denial by Clinton that he ever went to Pedophile Island. We have witnesses that he was there. We have witnesses he was there. The African trip that I just described was the second of Clinton's estimated 27 trips on Lolita Express. And occasionally he would travel without Secret Service, which is a breach of the Presidential Protection Protocol. I don't know if there's any penalty for that, but it gives you an idea. He didn't want Secret Service to know what the hell he was doing. Maybe they would have gotten suspicious, these little girls around. At the time of the 2000 trip, Clinton and Epstein had been friends for 10 years. Now, here's something very revealing about how close they were. He and Maxwell visited the White House 17 times while Clinton was president. How many people visit the White House 17 times that are not close to the president? I wonder if they ever used the Lincoln bedroom. We should find out, right? I mean, maybe Hillary knows, which is why she's being subpoenaed. They're going to try to avoid that subpoena as much as possible. They're going to do everything they can.
Can they be compelled in the end, Mayor? Or can they?
Only if he's given immunity. But I mean, there wouldn't be much of a problem in giving him immunity. These things, if he did do something criminal, the statute of limitations is over. So it's like giving him ice and winter.
How did Bannon, or was it Navarro, end up in jail? Wasn't that something to do with
No, they
defying
didn't
a
raise
subpoena?
the Fifth Amendment. They raised presidential privilege, and it was decided that it didn't apply. They didn't raise the Fifth Amendment.
Wow.
And the Fifth Amendment doesn't prevent you from showing up. It prevents you from answering questions.
Oh, so by not showing up.
If you don't show up, you're in contempt. Now, they can't force you to answer questions. You take the Fifth Amendment, but you got to come there and do it. Theoretically, they could have you there for 5 days answering questions. They don't do that. Usually, the way the Fifth Amendment operates is if someone's going to take it, sometimes they'll even take a written statement and put it on the record so you don't have to show up. But usually you answer a question, or sometimes if you want to make the record clearer, you answer maybe 4 or 5 questions, and then you conclude as a prosecutor by saying, I take it you're going to take the Fifth Amendment to every question I ask. And if the person says yes, you let them go. If they don't, well, tough, they're going to be there all day. And they're going to selectively take the Fifth Amendment, which happens sometimes too, because there are some areas that could be incriminating and some that are not. And I've been a lawyer and a prosecutor long enough to know that although taking the Fifth Amendment just about convicts you with the public, half the people, if not more, that take it for totally valid purposes for which it was intended, so that you can't, innuendo and lying and whatever can't inveigle you in a situation. They're going to misinterpret what you said, or they're going to use it to try to do cheap perjury cases where, well, how many people were at the meeting? 4. Well, then it turned out there was 6. Okay, charge them with perjury. You don't think that during the Biden era that was prevalent? I mean, he had prosecutors who specialized in that. Weissman. Now, I don't know if this guy is still very close to the Clintons, but this was sort of the Clinton manager when they got out of office and started shaking down people all over the world for the Clinton fund that paid for a lot of their personal expenses. The biggest contributor to all that was the Ukrainians. That's pretty hard to believe, even the library, right? You think of all the rich country in the world. How could Ukraine have donated the most to the Clinton shakedown? Because there are a lot of oligarchs in Ukraine that are tied up with the Clintons. That's why. So, according to Doug Band, who was like the chief of staff to both Clintons when they came out of office and helped them make all that money, very close to them. And I don't know if they split up or they didn't, or I don't really know what happened to Doug Band. But he has been interviewed, and he says, now this could, of course, be him lying, I don't know, but he says, and therefore it has to be evaluated, that for years he tried to keep Epstein at a distance. Now, let's look at the choice of words here. But Clinton just couldn't stay away. Those are words you use about an addict, right? He just couldn't stay away. I mean, Epstein's not that attractive. He just couldn't stay away. I didn't want to say that, doctor. Van said in early 2003, the former president visited Epstein's private Caribbean retreat, Little St. James, now known as Pedophile Island. So there's a testimony that he went at least once. He says he never went. Now, it has been stated, although I haven't seen the evidence, that there are 26 or 27 trips that are recorded, including trips on the Lolita Express, which is the name they give to the plane because it relates to the novel, the 55 novel about a professor who rapes his 12-year-old stepdaughter. And Epstein had an original copy of that in his residence. Maybe he gave it out as a present to his constituents. But in any event, it's called the Lolita Express. And the Clinton has certainly been aboard that. I don't know if he denies that also. He definitely denies going to the island. So his close aide, Doug Band, here testifies against him on that and says that he went there in 2003. Now, the records seem to show considerably more than that. Now, I don't know if you understand the significance of that blue dress. It was a blue dress that Monica Lewinsky had that had his semen on it. And it's always been thought that this was making a mockery of her. So it's more significant than just, well, I mean, it's kind of a stupid thing anyway. But if that's true, that the two of them were like doing that, it just gives you an idea of how close they were, right? The Clinton has insisted that he never set foot on the island. Now, Virginia Giuffre, the lady who committed suicide a few months ago, apparently testified that he was there, and on one occasion she was across the dinner table from him, and he had two lovely girls with him. And he was teasing the girls on either side of him with playful pokes and brassy comments. There was no modesty between any of them. It was really the billionaire's Playboy Club. We all finished our meals and scattered in our different directions, strolling into the darkness. Clinton did with two beautiful girls around either arm. Bill seemed content to retire for the evening. Now, I don't know, and it doesn't say here what the age or apparent age of these girls were.
Well, and this is from a...
That's Giuffre.
Okay, that's right.
Who's now dead. Like so many people that could testify against the Clintons. I think if you testify against the Clintons, you get this like suicide complex. It's like, oh my God, I feel so bad that I'm testifying against those wonderful people. I'm going to kill myself. Did you ever count up all the people that are dead that could have testified against them? I don't know.
There's a long list. There's Doug Band with the president. That's Doug Band.
I don't come up with as many as that with John Gotti.
There is a long.
I mean, we could. I mean, I had a friend, a very close friend. Well, not just a friend. He's a great man, Roger Ailes, who had a whole list. He made a whole list of all the people around the Clintons who had allegedly criminal information about them that are no longer with us. And he said, "Yeah,
it's a long list."
I mean, you know, it could be a communicable disease.
That's awesome. Well, maybe we take a quick break and come back.
We'll take a quick break. We'll come back, and you know, it's amazing that the press. I mean, if that the press doesn't point out that it's a blue dress that Monica Lewinsky had, and this was definitely done after he had taken advantage of Monica Lewinsky. We'll be right back. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax, channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
These deals are...
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans. No Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. This is Rudy Giuliani, and we're back with America's Mayor Live. The situation that took place at the Stewart base in Georgia, it's hard. Again, they're putting out very little information about it for fear of saying something that isn't correct. But it's beginning to look a lot like a personal situation. Now, I'm saying that with no real hard facts other than my just putting together facts that you know, right? So Cornelius Radford, who was 28 years old, who did it, who was taken into custody. He shot 5 soldiers. They were theoretically, or they were described as soldiers that were within his command. He was a sergeant. I don't know if that's correct, but at least that was one description of it. And then before he got a chance to shoot others, other soldiers tackled him and subdued him. And within a very quick period of time, the police arrived. Now, apparently the police had been called, but the police actually got there before the ones that were called because they saw some kind of commotion and they were very close to the area. So they subdued him pretty quickly. We don't know of what his motivation was. Now, we don't know, meaning it hasn't been disclosed. He may have disclosed it in the long period of questioning that he went through by the military and the FBI. And as the general has said, General John Lubis, who's in charge of the base, what we know is the shooting occurred at the soldier's place of work. It did involve his co-workers. We're not sure of the motivation, but he's been interviewed by Army investigators, and we believe we'll get more information shortly. He's never been in combat. Little is known about Radford. He's never been deployed. He was arrested, and I guess the charge is pending for DUI in the local community. The base, Stewart, houses the 3rd Infantry Division. It has about 10,000 troops, as well as Army employees and their families, and it's 40 miles southwest of Savannah, Georgia. And believe it or not, it was the site of a 2022 shooting in which infantryman Shea Wilson, 28, of Cambria Heights, Queens, allegedly fatally shot a 30-year-old Sergeant Nathan Hillman, an Afghan war veteran. And he's awaiting trial. So this is not the first horrible incident there. And at this point, I think we just withhold judgment. We can sort of see what it looks like, but it may turn out that it's much worse. Or I mean, it's terrible. Right now, the original prediction that the 5 soldiers that were shot would survive seems to be holding. And I don't know, but it sounds like, again, these are all just little things to come out because no official thing has been. I think 3 of them may already be out of the hospital, but it was 2 that were more serious and 3 that were fairly minor shots. Last night we talked a little about Schiff, Shifty Schiff, but you got to know what a crumb this guy is. I mean, how this guy is in the Senate, even from California, is like ridiculous. He was the biggest liar that existed over Russian collusion Show a picture of him, Ted. I mean, just look at him and you can see the face of Dorian Gray. I mean, he has the kind of face where I'd love to prosecute him. I think a jury would look at him long enough and they'd say, "Oh yeah, he's a little crumb." Now he's a big criminal in the sense that he was involved in falsifying evidence on a major scale in trying to remove a lawfully elected president based on false testimony. That's about as serious as you get. And yeah, let me see that again. Went up quickly. Yeah, that's him right there.
This is an old cover of ours. So.
Yeah, that's
Shifty Schiff, right?
That Shifty Schiff. He gets elected a senator based on his good work as a liar and traitor. But the charge against him shows you what a cheap little schnorrer he is. Schnorrer is a Hebrew. Sorry, it's a Yiddish word for creepy little minor crook who cheats out of anything. So what he did, and of course he says, "Oh, you know, congressmen have residences, and this is normal." Well, if it is normal, they should all be in prison. What he did over a period of time, and more than once, is assert that his primary residence was in Maryland. Now, it couldn't be in Maryland because he represented a district in California. If it was Maryland, every one of his votes should be disqualified. They should take his salary back as a congressman. They should throw him out because he doesn't live in his district. You're supposed to represent that district. Of course, you have to have a place in Washington. But it is almost by virtue of the law not considered your primary residence, because you have to be there for work and you have to be representing your district. Now, it gets worse than that, though. That alone would be enough to charge him with fraud, because this led to his getting a financial advantage. He got tax benefits from lying like that. This is different than what Trump was convicted of, which was fraud that led to no loss. This was deliberate fraud for, I don't know if it was a lot of money, but who cares? He's a schnorrer. He's a creepy little low-class criminal. Maybe this involved thousands of dollars, maybe multiple thousands of dollars, but he got a tax break as a result of falsely claiming that he was that his main residence, his primary residence, was in Maryland. Now, just in case you need proof that he's an effing deliberate liar, at the same time, in many of those years, he also claimed that California was his primary residence because he got a tax break there too. Now, what kind of a dishonest piece of shit is that? And they put him on television, and he makes these pronouncements. I have witnesses
and he won't
that have direct testimony against Trump on Russian collusion. Who are they? You want to say something about that now, Congressman, Senator, shithead?
Right. This man.
He's the one who came up with the phony Ukrainian charge too, with the
yeah. And we got some clips
here. As his whistleblower.
Yeah, I think he
thinks he's keeping Ciaramella's identity secret, and we don't know who it is.
And I can't go into the particulars, but there is more than circumstantial evidence now. So
you've said on more than one occasion that you've seen
Schiff
ample evidence
and said
of the Trump campaign's Russia collusion.
Nope. Sorry. Go ahead, Mayor.
No, play it.
All right. This is a little montage of our this guy.
In which the Russians offered help, which we know they did. The campaign accepted help, which we know they did. The Russians then delivered help, which we know they did.
there is circumstantial evidence of collusion. The case is more than that, and I can't go into the particulars, but there is more than circumstantial evidence now. So
you've said on more than one occasion that you've seen ample evidence of the Trump campaign's Russia collusion. Last March, you said you had more than circumstantial evidence of treasonous collusion with Russia.
I've certainly said that there's ample evidence of collusion.
Can you agree that there has been no evidence of collusion, coordination, or conspiracy that has been presented thus far between the Trump campaign and Russia?
No, I don't agree with that at all. I think there's plenty of evidence of collusion or conspiracy. But we do know this. The Russians offered help. The campaign accepted help. The Russians gave help, and the president made full use of that help. And that is.
Now, at the time he said that, he knew that the two investigations had already concluded that found that that wasn't true. And what he's saying isn't true. He doesn't have that evidence. Never produced it. And then he produced a completely false charge with regard to Ukraine, put it out. Trump put out the documentary evidence that disproved it. And then on the floor of the Congress, he repeated it. But now here's the interesting thing, and this is why this guy who claims to be a former prosecutor, oh, I'm real smart. All the liberals are real smart, right? Do you realize if he had confined himself to saying that only before the Congress, you couldn't do anything about it? You can lie like hell. You have congressional immunity. And a lot of them get away with it. I mean, a lot of congressmen that I looked at when I was representing Trump, they wanted to proceed against, had covered themselves by. But this guy is such a pathological, sick puppy who wants attention that he doesn't even think about. He actually asserted once that he had congressional immunity. Doesn't remember how many of these shows he went on and shut his big mouth off. So everything you see there on television is prosecutable. All of that can be used as evidence that he committed perjury or he lied or he engaged in a conspiracy to remove a president based on false testimony, a conspiracy to obstruct justice, a conspiracy to obstruct the government. And I say that this gets very close to sedition. I mean, you would call it treason in sort of a generic sense, but you have to be really careful with the word treason in America. It's defined in the Constitution, and it really only can happen at a time of war. Sedition can happen anytime you're trying to overthrow the government or an insurrection like the January 6th people didn't do, or Trump, or anyone else but them. There was a report released today. Maybe somebody should just pull all these together. That the Biden administration has basically turned the federal government into a voter registration organization for the Democrat Party and took your taxpayer money and used it for that purpose. The biggest offender being FEMA, which may be one of the reasons why FEMA had turned into a totally useless organization. When people say that FEMA has always been useless, that's not true. I would have to testify under oath, and I think I did, that FEMA did a great job during September 11th. I mean, they were a material benefit to us, and I could almost go so far as to say we couldn't have done what we did without their help. And they were not just a bunch of political hangers-on. They were extraordinarily effective. And I know when my former fire commissioner, Tom Von Essen, was with them, they were enormously effective. Now, it's not true that FEMA has always been politicized. And so now this report was done. And you remember during the hurricane in Florida, when there was evidence and they had to fire someone, that they were skipping places to inform about relief who had Trump signs. Remember that? That's true. I mean, that's all been proven. The lady who did it was fired, and she was told to do it. And she actually testified that you shouldn't blame her because she was told to do it. And then they never followed up on who told her. And well, apparently they have now. It goes right up to the top. And it wasn't only FEMA. They put millions of dollars into FEMA to register voters. And then they'd pay these left-wing NGOs or nonprofits. Whenever you hear this NGO or nonprofit thing, a lot of people who are uninformed get very, ooh, isn't that so nice? They're not-for-profits. And because they're doing more stealing than corporations do. I mean, in foreign governments, they're absolutely, you might as well just begin your investigation for fraud. And in the United States, a lot of them also, same thing. It's the reason why these budgets are out of whack. I can tell you that the reason that the New York budget is, the New York State budget is 2 to 2.5 times the size of the Florida budget, even though New York has 3 million less people, is because New York steals a lot more than Florida does. At least at a ratio of 2 to 1, at least. If Florida steals at all, I can't really say that Florida steals. Human nature is such that I don't think there's a government of any large size that doesn't have a few people that are corrupt. In the case of New York, it's systemic. In the case of other places, it's occasional. And all you have to do is look at the budget. You don't have to go through some massive investigation, or just have to say to yourself, why would some place spend 2.5 times more than another place to end up with a worse result? And it isn't because the salaries are that much bigger. New York City police officers' salaries aren't that much bigger than anybody else. It's because the politicians steal so much money, particularly, sorry boys, the Democrat politicians. If Democratic politicians were uniformly honest, we wouldn't have these dilapidated neighborhoods that have been dilapidated for 50 years, because these neighborhoods have gotten billions of dollars, except there's nothing to show for it, because it went into the pockets of the NGOs, and it went into the pockets of the charitable organizations, charities designed so that congressmen who had no money could resign and be worth 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, 40 million, 100 million. This what I'm talking about is I don't know if it's the exception anymore. Somebody should investigate Congress. And then maybe we could have an honest government like it was supposed to be. So, I mean, is this the worst thing about Biden? No. Does it show that the administration was from top to bottom completely corrupt, run by without any doubt, the most corrupt man and the most perverted family that ever sit in the White House? And that is going to be coming out for years and years. You don't know the least of it. Well, Ted, Saturday, there's going to be the first female umpire in baseball, Major League Baseball. And she comes from New York. You know she'd have to come from New York to be tough enough to do that, right? She has been an umpire in the minor leagues for about 10 years. She worked for a while, the last year or so, at the AAA level, which is and she's been on a list to come up as a temporary umpire for a while. I don't know if she's coming up as a temporary umpire or this is permanent, but she's going to be umpiring the series between the Braves and the Marlins in Atlanta, a doubleheader on Saturday, and she's going to be behind the plate on Sunday. So if you want to see, and I think the Braves games are televised all over the country. Yeah. Remember at one time they tried to be the America's team like Dallas was?
TBS.
Yeah, but until the Yankees wiped them out in 2 World Series.
Also,
in fact, the second World Series, it looked easy.
And we got a picture of her here.
Now, I have to tell you the truth, it wasn't easy. The Braves, particularly that first 96 World Series, I always thought had a fundamentally better baseball team. And they have a great manager. I mean, the guy won so many Eastern Division titles. But Torrey was at the height of his genius, which lasted for about 10 years, by the way. It's not as if he ever deteriorated.
No.
What a great manager. Doesn't get the credit he deserves, really.
He doesn't?
I don't think so.
He's not thought of as because it's...
I think maybe he does. Maybe he didn't have as long a career as some of them. But if you look at his performance, it's got to get up there with the top 10 managers.
Yeah, Joe Torre? You're talking about Joe Torre?
So
Joe Torre's definitely top 10.
Every year he managed, except for one, his team was in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's definitely top 10.
Almost every year they contested for the American League title. They won it more than half the times he was manager. And they won the World Series 4 times.
Yeah. How long was he the manager?
He was manager about 12 years.
Yeah.
11 out of the 12, he had them in the playoffs. And he took over a team that hadn't won a World Series in 20 years.
And only 4 teams made the playoffs then.
He made the playoffs every year.
That's hard to do in baseball. There's only.
Well, that's the same thing about Cox.
I guess
You know,
what they'll say, Mayor, you're not going to like this.
People raised the issue about Cox. That what, did he only win 1 or 2 World Series?
Bobby Cox?
Yeah, the manager of the
Braves.
Braves.
Yeah, yep.
But Cox had them in the playoffs like 14 years.
Yeah, all the
okay,
90s.
You're in the Hall of Fame, pal. You got him in the playoffs for 14 years. I'm sorry.
You could make the argument that you got to win one, but he did.
No, you don't have to.
Oh,
you don't have to make the argument you win one. You get in, you're there.
So if you're saying,
I think winning the big game, World Series a little less because it's 7 games, but like even the particularly the Super Bowl, a little bit of matter of luck.
yes, when it's one game, you're right.
And in one game, a terrible team can beat a great team.
Yes, a 7-game series. You're right.
It's a very, very imprecise measurement of greatness. Now, if you keep repeating it the way the Patriots did, then you keep proving it. And the Patriots used to, until the end, they used to win and they even lost by like 2. Like the Giants beat them twice. One was 3 points and one was 4 points. But they had never won by more than 4 points up until then.
That's right.
So I made the argument, somebody made the argument, well, the Patriots could have easily have won this Super Bowl. They also could easily have lost all the ones they won. They won it by one score.
As a Green Bay Packer fan, I can't tell you how many playoff games we lost.
No, Lombardi didn't leave that level of doubt.
No, not Lombardi, but
he just beat the living shit out of you.
He won. But in the 90s and
by the
2000s,
time it was over, it was like, gee, I don't know why we even played with them.
A fellow Italian New Yorker. Something about those New York Italians.
I bet he wouldn't like taking down the Columbus statue, Bandami.
Oh, he'd be right there with you, leading the charge, and those other heroes.
So Jen Powell is the lady who is going to be on Saturday right there. I don't know. She'll be doing one of the bases, I guess, or the outfield for the first 2 games. But then on Sunday, she'll be right behind the plate. I think this is a wonderful thing. So now this is the third of 4 Major League American sports that have female game officials. The NBA has had officials for 28 years that are female. I didn't realize it was that long.
I didn't know.
28 years. That's a lot.
28? Yeah.
That's what it says. NFL 10 years. That seems about right. I mean, I can remember, when they did it, they didn't make that big a deal out of it. Because I can remember seeing a female NFL official watching television and saying, that's a female.
They did this 28 years ago?
Well, the NBA did.
Oh, NBA.
NFL did it 10 years ago.
Yep. I remember that.
The only one that seems a little incongruous is football. But I mean, that's an old-fashioned view of women, right? It's like it's such a violent sport.
Right.
But there's no reason. There's no reason why they can't.
Exactly.
All they have to do is know the rules and interpret them, and they're just as intelligent, if not more, than men.
And but I do think the counter argument
Their eyesight is just as good.
But the counter argument there is, women have grown up, playing. You can play softball. You're able to play softball growing up. Even hockey, there's women's hockey, and then basketball, of course, women's basketball is big. And where football. Right, where football, the argument might be they don't have nearly the same experience.
So do you think it's important? Do you think that playing the sport? Now this lady was a catcher.
Okay.
This lady was a catcher.
So Major League Baseball, exactly. So it makes sense.
So I guess she played women's baseball.
Yes.
I don't know if it was softball or baseball, but at least it's close enough. So she knows the fundamentals of the game.
Right.
From being involved in the game. But do you think that that's critical to being an umpire, that you have to play the game? Or do you think that a person can be taught the rules, watch the game?
Yeah, I'd want to know this.
I'm not sure. Yeah. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't either.
But I do know that I am sure that it has more to do with your ability to observe
hand-eye coordination
your rational computation.
Right.
You got to make very, very quick decisions.
Yeah. And they're different sports,
you have
too.
To have unbelievable, it's like a great fighter pilot has to have great hand-eye coordination.
Hand-eye and
a great hitter.
Where it becomes muscle memory and you keep this consistency.
You think a fighter pilot, oh gosh, what you really want is a guy who can, boom.
Yeah.
Boom. Tremendous hand-eye coordination. It's the reason why Ted Williams was one of the greatest fighter pilots of all times. Right. One of the greatest baseball players of all time. Because he could see the baseball when people couldn't see it. I think that's the art of being an umpire, is to have a much higher degree of perception than the average person.
Yes.
Ability to see. And then
to timing
the
too.
kind of decisive mind to make a decision real quickly.
Out or safe, right?
And even
Those
if you're going to
boom,
be
boom.
wrong, you got to make it quick.
Make it quick.
And what has to happen is that over a period of time, you have to be wrong very few times.
Yes, to get to the pros, right?
Your degree of being wrong has to be less. I mean, I actually think they measure umpires that way. They sort of try to look at all the disputed calls. And if you have a lot, they're going to start looking at you carefully. You just have a few. Well, come on, that's you're human. And,
Right.
And you think about when they do replay. So even as a biased fan, they're right. What 75% of.
I would say baseball even higher.
No, wait. I'm not going to say they're declared right. I think there's a certain prejudice.
Well, they always
I
favor
mean,
the call on the field.
I think
right?
there's a certain prejudice that way too.
Yes. Oh, even
I
inherently.
think
Yeah.
sometimes the call is wrong and they just go along.
Yeah.
With it. But but that doesn't happen all the time.
No.
So what are they right? Like
I'd say
75, 80% of the time?
I'd say baseball umpires maybe 90. I don't know the stats, but I can see
We
it
should look.
more than football because football, I think there's the nature of the replays are different.
Well, there are some calls that are impossible.
Baseball's
to do,
boom,
and they,
boom.
and they haven't set a common standard for it, like pass interference.
Yes.
I mean, pass interference sometimes it's a little touch on the guy's back,
Right.
and other times they're mugging the guy and they don't call it.
Right.
Now,
That's
I
right.
don't know if they don't see it or they elect not to call it, or
Well,
because the fans believe they were paid off.
let's play this little clip here. This is just a corporate softball game. I know you played a lot of softball.
I did
Through the year. Baseball or softball? Probably both.
both.
Well, I'd like to get your reaction. Is this appropriate in a corporate softball game? Let's get this full here. Look at let's see this guy take her out here. Watch the play at a home plate. Woman. There's a woman charging for home. Look at the man. Takes her out. We'll watch one more time. Is that appropriate?
Well, that would be.
Watch this.
First of all, she'd be declared safe in Major League Baseball. You can no longer block the plate as a catcher. I used to be a catcher. I used to block the plate.
You used up until recently you could do that.
I was a catcher back in the Stone Age. I would have done everything to stop the guy to come in. Probably would have run up and hit him in the face before he got there.
What if you guys were playing with your U.S. Attorney's office?
No, I'm talking about when I was a catcher in the Little League.
Growing up,
in
yeah.
high school.
But my question is, these are adults.
I was taught, now this guy doesn't even do that. I was taught, but also from boxing, that you can reduce the impact of the blow by going at the person. So if I had the time, if I get the ball and you're coming at me, I'm coming at you.
Yeah.
Because I can reduce the impact on my body by pushing back against you.
But the question is, in a backyard or in a corporate.
That looked like a terribly unathletic way to do it also. The guy is like just a goon. Does he have the ball? I get it.
She is okay. I want to report she's okay. We're not laughing at her injury, but I'm more. The guy is like, the guy's acting like this is the 7th game of the World Series, right? He's taking out his coworker. Who is that? Katie from accounting? He just knocked her out.
I don't know if it isn't both of them.
She is going all out, isn't she? She's trucking. She's moving.
First of all, she's not. We can't say she's like a delicate little creature. She's pretty big.
She's playing to win. They're both playing to win, I guess.
So I mean, that impact on his body had to be as bad as hers.
Well, him, I don't even think he meant to do that. I think he tripped.
Yeah, I don't know if he. It doesn't look deliberate.
You're right. It doesn't.
It looks more stupid than anything else.
That'll play into his.
But I would say. Oh, maybe it was deliberate. Look how he puts the shoulder there.
This guy thinks he's playing football. What is this, a Super Bowl?
It looks like they were playing like in a professional stadium too.
That is an MLB.
So who are they?
This was a. I'm gonna try to get the back on, but these are just like some sort of corporate outing, like a softball rec league, and so people on Twitter are kind of.
So are you suggesting that if he would have done that to a man coming at him, he shouldn't do it to a woman?
No, I'm suggesting the guy's treating
She's got to put up with the
right. If you're in the game, you're right. That's fair, Mayor. The question is, how appropriate is it?
She looks to me like she would have done the same thing.
So I guess the question is, if this is a work outing, this is just a work outing.
Did she get injured?
All right, not my understanding is that she's not injured, but we should triple check that.
That's just an immediate impact.
Yeah. And by the way, and I want to repeat, we're not laughing at any potential injuries here. I'm wondering if the scenario, the appropriateness of the scenario, right?
So we don't see if he has the ball.
She's called out.
I know. That. Oh, there we go. You
Oh,
saw
the ball. He does not have the ball.
Isn't
The
the-
ball goes trickling back. Look.
So didn't he call her out? That idiot there.
It looked like he could. Out.
Isn't that the ball there? On the
Nope. Safe. I don't know. He didn't call. He didn't make a call. He did the
Let's see,
umpire.
there's the ball.
There's the ball. Look at the ball. Watch the. You see the bright ball? Oh, and then there's the ball. See the ball?
What's that over there?
That's the ball. That's the ball. Not exactly the
Did she?
epitome of athleticism.
So, okay. So they did away, after some terrible injuries to catchers, they did away, you cannot in professional baseball block the plate anymore. You used to be able to do that. And the great catchers were great at it. But we had some very serious injuries. And usually the catcher is at a disadvantage because he's stationary, right?
Right.
We had some great injuries to catchers as a result of that. So that is now, you'll see, and a lot of baseball fans who don't follow this kind of demean the catchers and say, oh, they're a bunch of cowards.
Mhm.
It isn't true. They can't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just stand there like this. You got to do it like that, like almost like a first baseman or a second baseman or a third baseman. But in any event, she's not totally without fault. She was trying to separate him from the ball. That's why she came at him the way she did.
Right.
She didn't even bother to slide. Now, I don't know how that would have been called either. She's supposed to slide. You're not supposed to go into somebody with the obvious intent of dislodging the ball from them. Now, if you played baseball and you're anywhere near my age, you find this all very strange because you were taught to do that. But you're not supposed to do that. Like they used to be that it was common to go into second base with your spikes up right at the guy, either the second baseman or the shortstop, and dislodge the person from the ball. You spiked him.
Yeah. Right. Right.
He created some great battles in baseball. Billy Martin and Eddie Stanky. Eddie Stanky did it to Phil Rizzuto in the 51 World Series.
Yeah.
The Yankees won the World Series. Billy Martin, who was one of the most pugnacious people in the history of baseball, the next spring training meeting between the Yankees and the Giants, right?
Yep.
Stanky comes into second base. Spring training game. Martin gets the ball. Instead of throwing it to first base, which he throws it into Stanky's face for what he did to Rizzuto, and then beats the shit out of him. Because Martin could really fight, and Phil Rizzuto was always a very placid guy, nice, easy.
Yeah.
But you did that with my teammate.
Who's your second favorite manager?
You did that with my teammate, my partner there at shortstop. I'm going to kick the shit out of you, Stanky. And Stanky was a real big mouth, but he was no match. For Billy, who was a skinny little guy. But I know this because my father was like this. He had a great punch. He had an electric punch. Now, that didn't mean he could beat everybody. But so this led to a real problem for him because people knew that he liked to fight. So if he went to bars and stuff like that, it was like a gunslinger. They come up to him and challenge him to fight. Okay, you're such a tough guy, let's fight. And this idiot, until he got a little older, would go ahead and say, okay, we'll fight. On the other hand, he was probably, in terms of intellectually, one of the smartest managers in the history of baseball.
Who's that?
Billy.
Oh,
Billy doesn't have quite the record because he was so erratic. But
outside of Joe Torre, is he your favorite? Joe Torre is unique for you, right? I know you guys are very close.
Was a unique
so
manager.
Take him out. Take him out.
He put everything together.
Well, you were close to him too.
The manager of my youth, who has to be right up there, is Casey Stengel.
Casey Stengel.
I mean, nobody yet has done what Casey did was to win 5 World Series in a row.
They won 5 in a row. That's right.
Yeah, and they won 4 in a row.
Yeah.
Twice. Not under him, but they won under McCarthy.
Yeah.
They won 4 in a row.
Wow.
The great teams, the Ruth Gehrig teams won 4 in a row. The DiMaggio Mantle teams won 5 in a row.
See?
And they went through a transition. They began that with Joe DiMaggio in center field, and they ended it with Mickey Mantle in center field.
Interesting. I mean, my goodness. And those.
They began it without Yogi Berra. They ended it with Yogi Berra.
I mean, your youth. I mean, when you were a kid, they just won. They were just constantly
it was
winning.
like a shock to me when I was like, it was like losing your best friend when the Yankees lost the World Series in '55 to the Dodgers. I didn't think it was possible.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was possible.
Changed your whole worldview.
Yeah. Well, '54 got me ready for it because it was the first time they were out of the World Series. When the Giants went to the World Series against the Cleveland Indians. The Yankees got beaten by the Cleveland Indians.
Wow.
And they had been in the World Series 5 years in a row and won it 5 years in a row. Before I even knew about baseball, they were winning. As I began to learn about it, 1950 with the Philadelphia Phillies, they won.
Now, did you listen to the games growing up or watch them on?
My parents
or both?
My parents were big baseball fans.
But in the 50s, were they on TV at that point?
No, they were.
You listened to them on the radio?
I began my life I began listening to them on radio.
Do you remember?
Oh, I do remember.
So would you?
I remember the radio that we had, and I remember stopping at candy stores to get the scores on the radio.
So during the day, if you're out,
I remember coming back on Sundays from Prospect Park, and my mother would stop in the candy store and we get an ice cream or something to get the Yankee score.
You listen for it because they'd have it on the radio.
Yeah, we would ask.
But they'd have it on the radio, or you'd have to ask.
They have it on the radio.
Okay.
They'd have like 2 or 3 radios. They'd have the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Giants. They have for every.
Wait. How would in different parts of the store?
Yeah. So at the beginning of the bar would be the Dodgers if you're in Brooklyn, and then the Yankees. Now the Dodgers are very interesting. The Dodgers hated the Yankees. Yeah, Dodger fans hated the Yankees, like me. They used to try to beat me up and stuff like that.
Yeah, you grew up in Dodger country.
But they hated the Giants more.
Did that rivalry went back further?
That rivalry
went back a lot further than you.
I mean, they played each other like 20 times a year or something, or 25
times. Going back to the 1800s.
Back in those days, right? And the Giants moved to the West Coast when the Dodgers did, because they wouldn't have had an attendance anymore. The only games anybody ever went to in Polo Grounds at the end, even when they got Willie Mays, when they played the Dodgers, because there were no Giant fans left. The Dodgers and the Yankees sucked up all the Giant fans.
Okay.
And the Giants began as the big team and the great team
back in the 1800s. Yeah. Fascinating. We could talk baseball all night, but I am curious.
Well, I'm gonna finish up with the important things. I'm very, very confused about this and very sad. Of course, we don't know her, but she's looks like such a pretty girl with such a great career. This Martha Nolan, who died, who was found dead on a boat in Montauk, 33 years old. Who was a fashion designer who came from Ireland. She worked, look how beautiful she is. My God. And she apparently was as sweet as she is pretty. And so she was found dead 2 nights ago on a boat in Montauk Point. She had just come to the United States from Ireland like about 6 years ago. And she began working as an event planner. Now she is a college graduate with a master's degree from Ireland, so she was a well-educated young lady, and she started this company called East Times East, as well as another one with a partner, and it was a fashion company that had pop-up stores in the Hamptons, and apparently was making enough money to support a rather nice lifestyle. She had been interviewed a couple of weeks ago and talked about how lucky she was, how fortunate she was in the United States. She comes from a town called Carlow, 50 miles south of Dublin. She has a bachelor's degree from the University of Dublin in business administration, and she has a master's degree in digital marketing. And she got that in 2014. And at 26, she was the vice president of client experiences for an Irish-based retail marketing agency. She was bored with that, so she left and moved to New York and started all over again. And she began as a bottle service girl in Soho, which I'm not sure I know exactly what that is, bottle service girl.
Yeah, like a waiter.
Then she became an event planner. And then in 21, she launched East Times East, which is a fashion and a fashion accessories company called Duper with a partner. And she says, I am good at building brands. That is why people come to me. If you have an idea, I can make it happen. I have so much resources I can lean on to launch and scale brands. And she was apparently really, really good at it. And the people who, talk about it here talk about we were proud to host her East by East or Times East pop-up and admire her entrepreneurial spirit and creative vision. So she was found dead. The coroner says no obvious evidence of foul play. The way it happened was it Tuesday night or Monday night? Monday night, I think. Monday night in Montauk, and this boat is at a dock, and then right as you approach the dock, there are a group of bars and restaurants and stuff like that. And around midnight, the owner of the boat was running down the street yelling, "I need help! I need help! I need help!" And people ran to the boat, called 911. I don't know at this point if she was alive and they attempted to bring her around or if she wasn't, but within a short period of time, she was pronounced dead, I think at the scene, and taken out. And at least from the report, no evidence of any weapon there, no evidence of damage to her that would come about from an attack, but nor is there a cause of death given yet. So what did she have, a heart attack?
Yeah, the autopsy did not find evidence of violence.
Didn't find evidence of violence, but did it find evidence of a cause of death? Doesn't sound like it did. I mean, there are times in which you can't, if obviously your heart stops and your brain stops functioning, but what caused it? Doesn't necessarily have to be a heart attack, right?
Right.
So it appears as if they have not found a cause of death. So that would leave open to me as a homicide investigator at times, right? This case is not by any means closed because they haven't found that. Since they can't, it would begin to close it if they could come up with a definitive cause of death.
Right, and they can't.
No.
They haven't even offered it. They haven't even.
Well, at least they haven't reported it.
Never reported it, right? But the one thing I've noticed in these reports, Mayor, we don't hear about whose boat she was found on, and I don't know, is that common? I mean, she was found on a boat.
No.
We aren't hearing any names.
I'm surprised there's so little information.
Right, meaning that there probably is more. Are they protecting this person because, they're not? No one's thinking foul play at this point.
That's a very good point. That did enter my mind, and we're going back to Suffolk County because of the investigation that we got involved in.
Gilgo Beach
covered up so many things.
Right. There's someone's boat that,
somebody owned that boat. Maybe it was her. I don't know.
33 years old. You're not supposed to just die.
So there's a painkiller, an energy booster that is known as Kratom. And you can apparently buy it. You can apparently buy it, among other places, like in gas stations on the road, because it's an energy booster. It'll keep you awake. Now, apparently, it didn't start this way, but they put in it, to make it more effective, something known as 7-OH. I wish Dr. Maria were here because she could pronounce it. But it's 7-hydroxymitragynine, 7-hydroxymitragynine, or 7-OH. And what that 7-OH does, it latches onto opioid receptors that increase over a period of time. They increase your dependency on it, and they create tolerance. What that means is, and this is what is so dangerous about heroin and the really serious addictive drugs, including marijuana. You need more. So you can start off with just a very, very little bit of marijuana, which I know best, probably, and cocaine. And it'll get you high or down or whatever you want. But now there's an inexorable process, particularly with heroin, which is brutal, where you need more. And then usually it's the only way you ever drive anybody to get clean. They can't do it anymore. They just can't get enough heroin. Now, not all drugs are as demanding as that, but they all have some of that capacity, some less than others, of creating tolerance. And then you go to a next level, tolerance, next level. Apparently, this 7-OH is devastating in that regard. But you can buy it in gummy bears, in bright colors, candy flavored. So Dr. McCary held a press conference yesterday. I think you might have seen it with Robert Kennedy and several other people from HHS and from the Drug Enforcement Administration, and they are going to consider putting it on the controlled substances list, so that it would have to be prescribed, and you can't get it. Now, this is extracted from a tree in Southeast Asia. And it goes way back to the 1800s, and it's been used forever. And they try to make you feel really comfortable, saying, well, it's a natural process that does the same things as painkillers or relaxants or whatever. Well, yeah, maybe a natural process, but it's a natural process that deteriorates your brain and makes you dependent on it. Dr. McCary said during the press conference, 7-OH is not just like an opioid, it is an opioid. And it's 13, catch this one, 13 times more potent than morphine. It acts at lower doses, it can act as a stimulant. So that's why they have it on roadside and highway stops, keep you awake. Lower doses. Higher doses, it turns and becomes a sedative. So think about it. You get the wrong combination, you take it to be awake, it puts you to sleep, and you're driving a car and it goes up a creek. So it's a very, very volatile drug, not a natural supplement, which is the way it's marketed. Now, they say that the deaths are rare, but there are some. And sometimes they sometimes it's laced with fentanyl if you buy it illegally. But generally, it has a very, very deleterious effect on your health. And it is definitely stronger than morphine. Now, you shouldn't be able to buy something stronger than morphine at a gas station stop. That's kind of ridiculous. It's highly addictive, particularly those that are now made with 7-OH. And I think it'll be on the controlled substances list very, very shortly. There also is a terrible, terrible story about a young man, James, named Jordan McKibben, and the Post, I think, outlined this today, who died from this drug, not knowing what the hell it was, and thinking that it was a natural supplement. And he must have gotten one that was just a little bit too strong, which can happen because it's very volatile. So it's at very low doses, it apparently keeps you awake. But then as the dose increases, it starts to turn, and and if you don't know exactly how much you got and how much is in there, and it can kill you. And in the case of Jordan McKibben in the state of Washington, he took a spoonful of Kratom supplement and he put it in his lemonade. And he used to use it just as a way of feeling better, thinking it was perfectly harmless, and it killed him. And so his mom has been Pam Malden has been a major advocate for getting control of this new drug as quickly as possible. Now, there's another one too, which is feel-free. And that's another natural way to get a boost. It's a botanic tonic. And it's advertised as being totally safe. And apparently it also can create tremendously deleterious effects on you. So I think it's really good that we have someone like Bobby Kennedy who stays on top of this. I mean, under Biden, I think the guy who would advise on this was Hunter. And he would say, the more the merrier. So this is this is a good thing. Now, you remember yesterday we were going to do that piece on the fire chief who yelled at the kid and said, "Go F yourself," or something like that?
Yeah.
Apparently the kid was a major problem. And we used to have like these terrible tantrums and hit the parents and do all kinds of things. So they're saying it's a really unfair thing.
I wasn't getting on it.
Somebody really had to get control of this kid. Like, it's one of these things where you might have to slap somebody across the face to get them to stop being hysterical. So now, you slap somebody across the face, that's assault, right? But if somebody's being hysterical and you slap them across the face, what is that?
Right.
Therapeutic.
Right.
So I'm
reading about it to see if
I'm not going to even report or tell you the name of this guy because apparently there's a really good defense of him, as it's not as clear as they originally made it. Maybe somebody had to say to this kid, "F off." Maybe you could have found a better way to say it, but come on, let's not get ridiculous, You're dealing with an emergency, you try the most shocking way to say it. To get If you think we're the only ones that have an immigration crisis, you haven't been to Europe lately. In the United Kingdom, the most popular name last year was Mohammed. Well, we have to pack because we're headed to Las Vegas, Ted and I and Dr. Maria. And we got a great conference we're going to, which will include Roger Stone and General Flynn and people that I really admire. And we'll put up the advertisement again as we conclude. If you're in the area, if you're in Las Vegas and you don't want to lose money, come to our event. There'll be a period of time in which you can't possibly lose money. Pay a little bit for the ticket, but that's the end of it. You don't lose any more. So pray for the people of Israel. Pray for the people of Ukraine. Pray for the people of Iran. Pray for all the people that are being persecuted. And pray for the president and for us so that he makes the right decisions. We all need your help, God. Thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow from Las Vegas. God bless America.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God